Hello, everybody. Those that are on the channel might remember about 2 years ago when Graham Hancock's Ancient Apocalypse series came out on Netflix. I did a series of videos reviewing some of the episodes and the topics in general. So I'm going to do something pretty similar to what I did last time, maybe just with a little bit more high-level detail. So I'm just finishing episode 1 at this point of Ancient Apocalypse Americas. So it's season 2 of the series. And a couple of things are very apparent to me in reviewing the first episode. To begin with, Graham, I think, very much has learned some things from some of the backlash that he received, not only from the first season of Ancient Apocalypse, but I think also his debate with Flint Dibble on the Joe Rogan Experience about 8 months ago. You can see that there's some fingerprints of responding to critics from the original first season, but also paying a little bit of attention to some of the things that came up during the Flint Dibble debate during Joe Rogan's podcast back in April of 2024. And it's very interesting to see what he's done here, because effectively, Graham has worked to really bulletproof his argument, and that there is a lost civilization, or that there was strong evidence of a lost civilization, an advanced civilization in prehistory that we have more or less lost the memory of. And this series, this season in the series, focuses on looking for evidence on that in the Americas. And Graham has bulletproofed his argument and his approach in the show in two different ways, which I find very interesting. And it's very apparent just even in episode 1. And there's more episodes to follow. First of all, one of the ridiculous criticisms of Graham from the first season was that he is somehow touting sort of a racist hypothesis. And this is it's a bit of a ridiculous assertion on the part of his critics. And you can find all sorts of responses from Graham and others to this ridiculous assertion. One of the things that did come out of the first season and some of Graham's work in the past is some criticism by people who are First Nations, Indigenous knowledge keepers themselves, that often they felt Graham hadn't consulted a lot with the Indigenous peoples in the areas that he was looking into. And it's apparent already from episode 1 that he has learned from that, because he's consulted Indigenous knowledge keepers, both from the Yakima tribe in White Sands, New Mexico, which is where the episode begins, looking at prehistoric human footprints alongside of extinct megafauna, and further into the past, like 20-some thousand years into the past. Basically, without saying it, blowing away the Clovis first, the remnants of any Clovis first ideology that humans have only been in the Americas for 13,000 years. That evidence alone blows that out of the water, and he talks about it without actually using any sort of aggressive language about it. But he is consulting with Indigenous knowledge keepers from that area, and that is in the episode. He also consults with Indigenous knowledge keepers from South America, which is sort of where the second half of the episode takes place. And so one of the things that Graham has learned and is really appreciative, I really appreciate, and hopefully it will be appreciated by some of the critics who said that he did not readily consult Indigenous knowledge keepers, is that he's learned from that criticism and he's worked to change it. The other criticism that I think Graham has really paid attention to and learned from and bulletproofed is the reliance on some of the work that's going on by experts in archaeology, geology, anthropology, paleontology. This episode is already covered with people that are doing professional digs in various sites and doing the science in various areas. And the difference I notice already is that he's far less aggressive in going after archaeologists as a profession and anthropologists, and in fact actually embraces the work of several archaeologists, geologists, paleontologists, and anthropologists in this episode, and consults with them and gets their opinion, and often allows them to sort of say that they have been surprised by results, that they didn't account for various aspects of prehistory that have manifested themselves over the years. And so, in a way, Graham has stepped back in this episode, we'll see if this continues, from appearing angry or hostile or confrontational with archaeologists and anthropologists and geologists and paleontologists, and instead letting them almost provide his story or present the evidence that they have uncovered that he feels supports his argument. And so the first episode was I found it to be a very different flavor than the first season. And it is very evident that Graham has learned and has bulletproofed some of his arguments. So I look forward to seeing the rest of the series.